All right, good afternoon, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. Today's topic is going to be professional selling, and it's back to the basics. A lot of this will be like Ned in the first grade reader to some of you, but hopefully you'll pick up a few points. And I think the main thing that I hope to accomplish with this is to be aware if you have people that work for you or more than one person in your sales and marketing team, that we need to be very conscious that everybody's on the same page and that we're all, putting our best foot forward for our prospects coming in. A lot of what I'm going to talk to you about today are things that I have learned from mystery shopping, and this has all been recent, within the last 6 months or so. Some of this stuff that you will probably think it's too crazy to happen, but I promise you it's still going on in a lot of communities today. For those of you that are new, we do a slightly different format. These are just going to be 30-minute sessions. I'm going to try to get through the information. I know everybody's very busy. If we don't have time for questions, what I would suggest is that you can either give me a call or email me directly. I'd be glad to talk with you about any questions or concerns or anything I could do to help you out. And then at the end of the webinar, there's a 2-question survey. One is just going to be if you like the 30-minute format, and then number 2 would be some other topics, either sales-based or just anything to do with senior living that you would like to see us present on. Today's outline, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Moore Diversified Services. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, Roy Barker. Talk a little bit about a shift in focus, and then I'm going to keep it really simple. We're going to talk about the beginning, the middle, and the end of this process. And with 30 minutes, this is not going to be all encompassing, but we're going to try to hit some of the highlights, and hopefully you'll pick up some good information. Our next webinar will be July 21st from 1 p.m. Central to 1:30, and we're going to talk about 10 must-dos for community call takers. Moore Diversified Services, we're a full-service boutique consulting firm that focuses on senior living and healthcare. We work with both for-profit and not-for-profit. We've been in the business for over 40 years, and just some of the services we offer are the marketing analysis, mystery shopping, tactical planning, SWOT analysis, operations analysis, and benchmarking. And then we also have the shared executive retainer agreement, which is a great way for communities to get to tap into our knowledge base and our extensive history without actually having to take on the full cost of hiring another executive. And I'd be glad to share that information offline with anybody who'd like to talk further about that. A little bit about me. I've been with MDS and been in the business for probably about 16 years now. My focus is usually in operations, marketing, employee retention, and then training and coaching as well. So the first thing I want to talk about a little bit today is a shift in focus, and this is not I'm not going to get into this in depth. Some of the points that I do talk about going through the webinar have to do with this, but there's just a big need to shift from our old school thinking of transactional selling to relationship building. I think the days of prospects walking in, we give them a tour, show them their room, show them the dining hall, get them to sign up is gone. And so we really have to take the time to sit down and build relationships with people that walk in the door. Sales has gotten such a negative connotation the last few years. To me, it implies that I'm going to try to sell you something that you don't need, don't want, and maybe can't afford. And so that's another good genesis for us to try to shift to be more of a relationship builder, relationship coordinator, to really try to find out who this prospect is and what are their individual needs, instead of just thinking of it broadly that we've got this great product and everybody's going to want to come live here. That's not necessarily the case. The other thing too is I think we've kind of missed the boat a little bit with thinking that only the sales manager, sales and marketing team, however that is named at your community, that they're the only ones involved in this process, and that could be further from the truth. We need to get everybody at the community involved in this process, from the executive director down to the housekeepers. We need to look at it as more of a collaborative effort. We want to collaborate with the prospect, family members, or anybody else that may be part of the decision-making team. And I think a lot of things that I see is everybody's rushed. We're trying to get people off the phone. We're trying to get them walk through a tour, get them moving on, and we just need to slow down and be genuine and show that concern and empathy for the prospects that are coming in. Who's our consumer these days? Well, I'll tell you this. My parents are of that age, and I will say that, they are much smarter and they are much more demanding than generations of the past. They are way more resourceful, and they have, through the internet, which they both have access to and they use regularly, they have more resources at their disposal than any other group that we've ever seen come through. And also, too, this generation that we're talking about now, some of them have actually had a parent that has gone through, some form of senior living, from independent, assisted memory care or nursing. So they have a little bit of knowledge about what the product is, and they have so many more options before. And that's not just, like home care and daycare options, but they have more of your competition, your direct competition, on more corners than ever before. Again, this group is going to be like everybody prior to them, and just like myself, it's going to be very hard for them to self-identify that they have needs that they want, that they need to move in, and they're always going to say, I'm not really like all these people that I see in here. But what they do want to maintain a lifestyle, and that's kind of where we need to focus on, is building up that lifestyle dream as we walk around, not focusing so much on just the real estate aspects, but on look at the lifestyle that these people are living. Take myself, I live in Texas most of the time, and right now it's hot, and so I'm out chasing a lawnmower around, or I'm trying to get the sprinkler to work, or I've got a lawn man that didn't show up, and I'm out trying to chase him down to see where he is at. And that is a great point, is whether it's the wintertime or the summertime, is you can really express to these prospects what a worry-free life it is. They get to enjoy these grounds without having to worry about the maintenance or even worrying about who's going to take care of it. They just get to enjoy life. Probably over 80% now will have researched you thoroughly and your competition online. So they're not coming in, most of your prospects aren't coming in blind, not knowing who you are, what you're about, or even your competition. And the unfortunate part is most of them will know your competition better than you and your team does. So, it's always good to get out, see what's going on, see what the competitors are doing, and stay abreast of everything in your market for sure. So let's start at the beginning. We'll talk about the call taker. They should be friendly. They should be in a noise-free place. They should have no distractions. And they should be somewhat knowledgeable, not only knowledgeable of the industry and your particular community, but they need to be knowledgeable about where's the salesperson at. And I'm going to use sales and marketing interchangeable. A lot of communities, that is the same hat as the marketing person is the sales. So for this presentation, I know marketing is a different function than sales, but a lot of times they are the same person. So they need to be knowledgeable about where the sales and marketing person is if somebody walks in or somebody calls and needs to talk to them. If your call taker got hung up in traffic and they were running late and they come in a little bit miffed and looking to pinch somebody's head off, take them off the desk for a little bit. Let them go do something else. Let them get back in their good humor and their good spirits, because I'm telling you, this is the very first point of contact, and I have talked to some of the worst first impression people that you can talk to. I mean, I've actually had I had a community that was very hard to find, and I was calling to ask directions, and the lady actually got mad at me and says, "Why are you calling here? I don't understand." And tried to explain to her, because I'm trying to get directions to come look at your community. So we need to really be careful about who's on the phone, and we need to go over. I think a lot of times too, it's that we don't take the time to really emphasize the importance of our call takers. And I'm going to go ahead and put this next piece up, and the greeter. Greeters, the same thing. Not only do they need to be easily seen, it's very it's difficult when you walk into a community and you can't find that person who you're supposed to be talking to. Maybe they're off to the left, and some communities are right in your right when you walk in. But make sure that people that walk in know where to go, and they don't feel lost and intimidated. And kind of getting back to where I was going with the call taker and the greeter, we really need to sit down with these individuals and tell them how important their job is, to let them know. A lot of times I don't think they realize that they are the key to the first impression, and they can make a difference on if a prospect wants to live here or not. Of course, we want them all to be friendly, knowledgeable. And this kind of goes for both the call taker and the greeter. Sometimes they're the same person, but that doesn't need to be a gathering place, because it's very distracting. When I walk into a community and there's 5 people gathered around and you feel like you're interrupting, or if you're on the phone and you make a phone call and there's so much background noise that your call taker can't understand the senior, maybe they're hard of hearing and all they can hear is the background noise. So it needs to really be noise free, distraction free, where they can concentrate on what they're doing. Of course, on the phone call, we want to know who's available, as far as the sales and marketing person, who's available and where are they. There's nothing worse to be like, well, I know, Joanne's here somewhere. I just need to try to find her, or let me get her to call you back. Be sure that you let people know if you're going to be stepping out on a tour, you're stepping out for lunch, and that way it just sounds a lot more professional, like everybody knows what's going on. Most important is have a backup plan, have a plan C, and have a plan D, because crazy things happen. I actually went into a community that fire alarm was going off right about the time I walked in, and this group handled it awesome. They didn't get stressed out. They parked me in the corner for a minute, did what they needed to do, and then we moved on. But the thing is, they had a plan. They knew what they were doing. And I've walked into some communities that I want a tour and they don't know where the person is. They've only got one person that's touring. Maybe she'll be back today or tomorrow. Maybe she won't. Nobody really knows. So make sure that you have a plan. Make sure that you communicate it to the people that need to know. Getting back to speaking slow and deliberate, here again, I'm from Texas, so I speak slow. And sometimes I get, when I'm interfacing with people that are really excitable, it's hard for me to understand them when they're talking so fast and just, really blowing and going. So just slow down. We're not in a rush. Get the information out and make that call, make the caller or make the person that walks in feel like they're important enough for you to take the time to, really talk to them. Providing information when transferring a call. Nothing worse just to be blindly transferred, or, hey, I'm transferring you. It's always nice for the, call taker to say, hey, look, Joanne, our sales and marketing person, is going to take your call. I'm going to transfer you to her, or would that be okay if I transfer you to her? But give them information. Let's just don't be in a hurry and just trying to move callers around as fast as we can. Sometimes they don't understand where they're going or who this person is or why I'm talking to them. So it's good to just inform them who they're fixing to get transferred to and why. And then scheduling a tour. Of course, that's the main thing that we want to try to get down to is, I think some studies I've read that 40% of people, that have toured in the last 6 months have moved in somewhere. So getting those tours is, if it's an appropriate fit for your community, it's very important. So some good questions to ask. Again, this is going to sound like it's really corny to some of y'all, I know, but I can't tell you how many times I've been a phone caller or been in a community and they never even got my name or who I was there for. So we want to get the name, and the age of the prospective resident, not necessarily the caller if they're the caller, but who are we talking about here? We need to gather that information, so we don't just say, well, that person. We want to put a name with that. Oh, so it's your Mother Mary. Let's talk more about your Mother Mary. A time frame, is this an immediate need? Sometimes with assisted living and nursing, there's an event that happened that's really pushing this, with independent living, and then with some assisted living, maybe it's not as urgent. Maybe it's more, we know that we're fixing to need this, and so we're starting to look around. So kind of look at the time frame. That kind of lets you know how much time that you're going to have to get to know this person and get to know about the prospect as much as possible. What kind of special issues do they have? Are they in a wheelchair? Are they on a walker? Um, Different things like that. Hobbies and interests, do they like to paint? And what we're trying to do is just build an in-depth resident profile, or an in-depth profile of the prospect. And this way it'll help us talk intelligently about our community, that we'll go over here a little bit in the future. And then what does a day in the life look like for this person? Do they get up? Do they only watch TV? Are they active? Do they try to do aerobics? Here again, it's just gathering as much information as we can about this prospect. Another thing is, depending on who we're going to contact, is always ask, never assume that people have that your desired means of communication is theirs. I'm still pretty old school, and for decisions like this, I would rather talk to somebody on the phone so there's no confusion. But a study I read not long ago said that over 60% of 50 plus preferred means is email. So let's don't guess and let's don't assume. Let's just ask, what is that desired means of communication? Can I get your phone number, or can I get your email address? Sometimes you get pushback on this. It's not all, everybody doesn't just give up the information, and that's understandable. But we can't assume that when somebody calls that they're just not going to give it up. What we have to do is we have to, ask them and try to cue them for this information. And then, what brought you in, or what made you call today? The most important question that a lot of people just miss. They don't ask that. So how can we address the needs, and how can we tell them what a great fit our community will be if we're not even sure what those needs are? And then, where did you hear about us? As the marketing person as well, probably we need to know, where are we putting our resources? What's working better for us, for all the options that we have to advertise. So then, get back to first impressions. We only have one opportunity to make a great one. So take the time to do that. And this starts at curb appeal. As a marketing salesperson, you need to look at your community when you drive in every morning. What's going on? Does the yard look good? Is the entryway clean? I actually drove into a community one time where there was an employee performing auto maintenance on his car in the community parking lot. And this wasn't just like, oh, I had a dead battery, I'm trying to change it. Now, he was putting a water pump on his car. He pulled a picnic table out in the parking lot. Him and his buddies were out there, in the afternoon at 3 or 3:30 after their shift, and they're putting a new water pump on the car. So I try to discourage things like that. We want it to be a very clean, inviting atmosphere when they walk in or when they drive up. Again, got to get all employees involved. We got to put a smile on everybody's face. Everybody should know that they need to greet our visitors, especially if they're walking around with you. They need to be friendly to them. They need to greet them. And one thing you can do is, you have to be careful with privacy, but you can put a sign in the lobby saying, welcome John and Linda, whatever, and then try to get the word out to the your staff that this is going to be John and Linda coming in with me, so that they could actually call them by name if they have an opportunity. Now, this slide here, I had some great information that I wanted to put here, but I just didn't have time. Or maybe you signed on to this webinar today and this is all you saw and nobody else ever showed up. And so you think, well, gosh, do I really want to do business with this guy? Because obviously he doesn't really have it all together. So kind of close your eyes for a minute and think about people that come into your community that they come in for information and there's no information to give them, or they come in for a tour and they're turned away because there's nobody to give them a tour. That's what this represents here. And of all the slides that I took the time to write and type on, after I put this together, the unfortunate part is I thought, this blank slide is the one that you need to take away. This is the most important slide of this whole presentation, is that when people call or walk in and they don't have any information to take away with them, it's disastrous, because I look at this as a litmus test. Usually people throw everything they have at you in the sales process, and then once you become a customer or resident, that kind of falls off a little bit. So I think about it like this: if they don't even have the time or the energy to try to get me some information to get me interested in living here, what is it going to be like when I'm a resident? Am I going to be totally ignored? So think about that as you go through your day, and kind of gets it back to have collateral and have it ready. Your staff needs to know where it is in case you're not there. Went into a community late one Sunday afternoon and nobody was there. A young lady was very helpful trying to find some information for me. Then she called her buddy, and so now I've got two people that dismantled the marketing person's office or salesperson's office, and they don't come up with any information. So everybody that's on staff needs to know, if somebody comes in, this is where you go to get them information. The other thing that's troublesome for me is when I'm walking in and I'm doing a tour and we sit down and they're talking to me, but yet their head is stuck in a filing cabinet, or they're printing this off or they're printing that off. It just, to me, it shows very disorganized. And an excuse of I just did 2 tours, to me, it doesn't really cut it. I mean, there should be a closet full of collateral somewhere that you can replenish. And if you have to come in on a Saturday or Sunday night to, put some together to have it ready, then that's what needs to do. It needs to be there, needs to be available. Other people need to know. The other troublesome part about the staff that were looking for this information is I kind of understood if they couldn't find it. Maybe they're new or whatever. But at some point, after about 5 minutes, they should have known to call either the salesperson on their cell phone or call the executive director. And to me, that's an important step. What we need to let our staff member knows is, let's don't fumble around. A prospect is like, manna from heaven walking into a community. We've got to treat them, with the utmost respect and do everything that we can to make a good impression on them. So can't find something quickly, just call the salesperson. Call them. Maybe have a little phone conversation, and it's understandable. You're not working on a Saturday or Sunday night late, but you can at least give them some information, get some information about them, and be able to follow up with them intelligently in the next day or so. Have someone available for tour. It's very disheartening for me to walk in and the same community that where the guy was working on his car, when I walked in, had a really nice young lady, met me. She was sitting there reading a book, which, it's nice to have them look busy, like they're not, just sitting around in a library. But when I walked in, she said, oh, the person that does the tours is putting on a resident mixer, and she's not available right now. I said, well, that's okay. I said, well, is there somebody else? I just want to walk around and get some information. No, can't do it today. Maybe you can come back tomorrow. I said, well, I'm out of town. I'm trying to leave today. Okay, well, maybe you can just call back, in a week or so. And didn't even offer to get me a packet. There wasn't any effort to try to show me around. And I just think this gets back to having our backup plan, our plan C and our plan D is, we need to have other people that are trained. Maybe they're not going to be as good as you are at it because you do that every day, but we need to have somebody that can make this prospect feel like that you really would like to make a resident out of them by at least showing them around, keeping them busy till you get through with your tour or whatever you were doing. And it's unfortunate, but a resident mixer is shouldn't be something that takes you away from a sales opportunity there, you could have a backup person for that, maybe the activities director or the ED or somebody else at the community could be helping with the mixer while you're tending to prospects that walk through the door. Of course, a lot of do this, but it's just a good reminder to try to get people to come in at mealtime, because that's the social hour at most communities, and so having them come in, see what a great meal that you put on, number one, but be able to see all the other happy residents talking and interaction that's going on. You can't buy that kind of publicity. Hold other on-site events, like mixers for prospects, seminars. We do a lot of third-party seminars because prospects will tend to believe me because they think that you're trying to sell them something, that you've got an agenda, whereas myself, they think, hey, this guy's just trying to give us some good information. So there's all kinds of people like ourselves, lawyers, financial advisors, just trying to give good information to your prospects and residents. Again, we need to get all staff involved in this. Don't perform an information dump. That I can't even discourage that enough. A lot of times sales and marketing people have a script, and as whatever I've got to do to get through the script. And I listened to a phone call a month or so ago of a prospect that had called in, and she gave the salesperson 3 cues that I want to come to her, and the salesperson on the other end of the phone just kept saying, okay, hang on, let me finish this, let me tell you more about it, instead of stopping. I mean, that's the goal of talking to people, is to get them to come in. When somebody says, yeah, I'd really like to tour, it is time to stop talking and offer them a tour. And a lot of times the next step is, well, when do you want to come in? And my advice is try to be a little more in control or direct about that. And it's always good to say, hey, I've got some time this afternoon, or tomorrow morning, or Monday, which works best for you, and try to give them the option. And but don't leave it open-ended where they can say, oh, I'll get back with you. Go ahead and try to pin them down and get an appointment. I know I'm running over a little bit on time. If y'all could just bear with me. I know this is all kind of this is just good information. I feel very passionately about it, so probably overdoing it a little bit. I'll try to pick up the pace. And just because you're not performing an information dump doesn't mean that you can't control the conversation through, asking questions and cueing the person that you're talking to, whether it's the prospect themselves or a family member. And then don't overdo it. I mean, sometimes we can just blow out so much information that we just totally overwhelm them, and they walk away not knowing much of anything we said. So just kind of slow down, give them the information that's needed, and do more listening than talking. But that doesn't mean that we still don't need to overcome objections. I can't afford this, or it's not right for me. We can still take the time to try to see if we can overcome it, try to see if they're a good fit. Of course, we want to ask the probing, open-ended questions. Listen for clues. If somebody says, yeah, I'd love to come in and tour, like I said, time to try to book that tour, and let's move on. Another important thing is meet the prospect where they are in this process. A lot of times when I talk to sales, or when I'm going on a tour, they always want to start at the very beginning. And a lot of times, like I said, 80% of your prospects that walk through the door, they've already researched you and your competition. They probably know what senior living is, so we may not need to start at the very beginning. But once we talk to them and we ask them some questions, we can kind of find out where they are in this, and where we need to pick up the conversation at. Don't feel like we can shoehorn everybody into the same community. I mean, it's just like everything else. There are personal preferences, there are services that you offer, and we can't be afraid to say, you know what, we're not a good fit. That's part of being a collaborator and a facilitator, not a salesperson, is we need to do what is right for this prospect. And if it's not for us, you can kindly say, look, I don't think this is going to be a good fit, but there are 3 or 4 other great communities in the area that I'd be glad to help you, get some information on or point you to the right people. That's what that's where we kind of take the sales out of, is not just trying to tell everybody that we are a good fit for them. Really listen, be genuine. People can see through if you're not. You have to be empathetic, and always assume there are other issues present, and that can be health wise, financial wise. So here again, as we go through learning more about the prospect and the family, always be listening for clues to see what other issues are present. Be the collaborator. One thing we can do is, like I said earlier, is match the caller or the visitor's voice and level, speed, their cadence. If it's somebody like myself that's probably a little bit slower talker, slow the conversation down. If it's somebody that is a fast talker, then you can speed up. Highlight the lifestyle, not the real estate features. We talked a little bit about that, but people understand there's a room and they get meals, but we talk about the worry-free life. Talk about if it's a healthy individual, even in assisted living, about being able to close the door and go visit family and friends and not have to worry about the yard, the water, all the things that people worry about in their own home. And then also, if we ask what brought you in here today or what sparked this phone call, then we can highlight the community solution to that. If it's, well, my mom's not, she's missing her medications, what we can do now is we can say, oh, well, we have a great medication management program here. Tours should be considered demonstrations. We want to walk around and show them what is this lifestyle all about. We want to let them see the other people living this lifestyle, in the game room, if it's in the movie room, whatever it is, whatever they're interested in, be sure to point that out. Be transparent and really interested. At the very least, just try to make a friend. The one thing too, if you have trouble getting people in, if it's a scheduling conflict or if they don't feel like they can get in easy, then consider doing home visits. Go out, and that gives you a chance to look in their house to see, are they an artist? Do they have paintings hanging on the wall? Do they have golf memorabilia? Are they big golf fans? So it gives you a chance to learn more about who this prospect is. And then we generally buy from people we like, and that's a fact from car buying to anything else, is that you go to people that make you feel comfortable, that feel like you have their best interest at heart. And then, like, again, slow down the pace, take the time to build the relationships. This isn't a race. I think I was reading that, probably 80% of sales are made on about the 5th to 12th visit. So we're probably not going to close them the first time out. And I've got to talk about that a little bit in a minute. Don't use big words or industry lingo. Stay away from that. Just talk, just normal conversation. Identify decision makers as soon as possible so we can get them in. And, we don't have to be blunt about that. Like, who do I need to be talking to? What we can do is say, this was a huge life decision, very emotionally packed. Are you going to have somebody that's going to be helping you through this process? There are ways that we can go about that to get the information without being too in your face. Then we want to make sure that we get the decision makers involved as soon as possible. We have to ask the tough financial questions. A lot of sales and marketing people shy away from this and they just don't want to talk about it, but it's part of the drill. We've got to know, at some point, it's not the first question, not the first thing that we talk about, but what we do, we do need to get to that at some point so we can help them. This is usually an objection, is I can't afford it. So whether it's, independent living, we might say that, most people spend as much for independent living if they have a home, even without a mortgage. They spend as much on, taxes, electric bills, water. When you start adding all that up, in assisted living, there are other things to talk about, such as home equity use and spend down, and then also with the uh, medical tax deduction that is still valid. They've raised the threshold is going to be going up in the next couple years, but for some individuals it still makes sense. And even if a family member is supplying over 50% of their uh, paying 50% of their bills or support, it can even work for them. So it's something that needs to be investigated. Printed material, need to have it in larger font and not cluttered. Sometimes we try to just put so much information on such a little space that it's hard to read. So we want to have a lot of white space, make it easy to read, hit the high points, and then you can fill in the gaps of the rest. Remember your role as a collaborator. And this is emotionally charged, not only for a resident, sometimes not even for the resident or the prospect. Sometimes this is more emotionally charged for the children or close friends or other family members. So we need to keep them in mind too, is that it could be emotional for a lot of people. And then at the end, what we want to do, we want to make sure there are no more questions. We want to make sure they understood everything. Take the time to go back over stuff if they're having problems understanding. We want to thank them for their time and be gracious about that. We also want to go ahead and set the next step, if any. What is that? Is that a follow-up call? Is it a follow-up visit? Is it, maybe you visited they visited your community, so maybe you want to set a follow-up to visit them at home. Go ahead and take the time to do that and try to get that on the schedule while you have them sitting there. It's much easier than trying to chase them down at a later date. Never, never, ever assume you're going to close on the first visit. The chances are just chances are slim, unless it's very needs driven and they're having to make a quick decision. But like I said earlier, I think that Caring.com did a seminar last week, and I think they said that like 60% of the people that visit you will also visit 3 or more communities. So, I don't know where they might fall in that. If you're the last one, you might go ahead and close them, but chances are, they're going to be out visiting and doing a lot more research. And you will not close everyone, and you shouldn't think that you will. What we want to do is take the focus off of closing everyone to building a relationship with everyone. And the other part is when you do close, quit talking. And sometimes I've seen salespeople that have talked themselves right out of a sale because the person said, "I'm ready to buy," and they just kept on. They couldn't help themselves. And so when somebody says, "I'm ready to sign the papers," let's get them to sign it and quit, take off your sales hat then. Ask for referrals. Word of mouth is the best referral sources that we'll have. So don't hesitate to ask for that if somebody is happy with what you've got, or, even a prospect. Maybe they have friends or family that are in need as well. Follow up. One thing I do on a follow-up when we have clients is, I recap the situation. And so that's a good thing about asking all those questions we talked about earlier is you want to go through and whether it's a phone call or whether it's an email or whether it's an old-fashioned snail mail, you want to say, okay, we talked about your mother, Mrs. Smith, and she has, these issues. This is her lifestyle. This is what she does. And, you recap the situation that you have, and then if you're trying to move to that next level in this relationship building. The other thing too is not all follow-ups have to be sales related, and even if they move in somewhere else, you can continue to follow up with them. And it happened to me not long ago when I sold a house. I interviewed a few real estate agents, and the one I went with, things didn't work out after a while. But one of the ladies that I didn't choose, she kept following up with me for like 6 months. And it wasn't a, "Hey, I'm here to sell your house. I want to sell your house." It was more of, this was coming through the winter. So it was more of, "Well, here's a cider recipe. Here's some market statistics for your area." And this lady was very religious about following up with me. And so when things didn't work out with my first one, she was a natural choice because I thought, wow, if she is as good at marketing prospects to buy my property as she has been at marketing me, this will be a no-brainer. And it was. she ended up selling the house at the listing price within about a month. So the bottom line, I guess, here is that even if somebody moves in somewhere else, you don't know that they're always going to be happy. So just keep that little trickle campaign going. Find some non-sales information that's good to send them, and just stay in touch with them. And I just can't even stress follow up enough, because in all the surveys that I've seen, they're probably 25 or 30% of your prospects or people that come in, they're not followed up with. And so if somebody else is following up with them, they're going to get their attention. Trust but verify. Call your own community, see who's answering the phone, see how that process goes. Have your friend or family member call as well. You need to know firsthand what's going on. Have others mystery shop you both by phone and in person. Hold informal refreshers. It doesn't have to be formal, like everybody's in trouble, but just sit down and talk with the key people in this process and make sure that they understand their job. Make sure that there's no questions, because after you get into this for a little bit, they may decide that they have some questions and some issues. Find out what the process is like from their perspective, and that way you can make adjustments as necessary to make it easier on the people that come in or call. And then the other thing too, just be sure and praise and reward all the employees. That goes from the person answering the phone to the greeter to housekeeper to dietary. They are very important pieces in the sales process. And so not only do we need to keep them educated and keep them pumped up about it, but we also need to thank them for their support. All right, guys, I'm sorry I ran a little bit over today. Like I said, pretty passionate about this, and this is huge. This professional selling is what sets apart, the good from the great communities. The great communities just really hit on all cylinders in the sales and marketing process. So anyway, July 21st from 1 Central Time, again, we're going to talk about 10 must-dos for community call takers. If you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to either give me a phone call or an email. I'd be glad to talk to you. And then if you would, please just take a few minutes to complete the 2-question survey we had. Hope everybody has a wonderful day.